Hey and welcome back to my channel. My name is Michaela. I am the content creator here at KandidKayla.com. If you are new here, this platform is all about growing ourselves, in ourselves, and for ourselves through the 8 different dimensions of wellness. So today we're going to be talking all about financial wellness and more specifically, how to stop living paycheck to paycheck. So I wanted to make this video because COVID-19 is still a thing and everybody's finances for the most part is up in the air. Whether you're making more money than you've ever received before or you're not making a lot of money and you're in a situation where either you've gotten COVID-19 or you've had to collect unemployment or you're on military stipends like I am and your money's getting cut short because semesters are being shortened and things of that nature, it is always a necessity to have a plan. The plan should be to not have to depend on an incoming source of income in order to pay your bills. That is all ensuring you're not living paycheck to paycheck is. So what that means is you should, at the end of a month, have enough money left over to be able to pay all of your bills in the event that you don't receive a paycheck. I more or less have never really lived paycheck to paycheck, but I finally, within the last 3 to 4 years, have gotten to a point where I could afford to miss a paycheck or two and still be fine. So I want to help all of you guys out there. It doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter how often you get paid. It doesn't matter how little or how much you make. The principles are fairly the same and they're very, very basic. So in the next 5 steps, you're going to learn how to stop living paycheck to paycheck. The first step is to give or tithe. I am a Christian. You don't have to be a Christian. The fundamentals of giving are all the same. You cannot expect to receive anything more with a closed fist. So you have to be willing to give to other people. And you have to be willing to give back to God for those of us who do believe. It is a fundamental principle. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, and even American tax principles supports it. Giving is the only way for you to have the availability to receive more. There's just a supernatural factor involved with it, and it's really simple. I give 10% of my earnings to my church every month, and I also give another 1 to 2% to somebody else. So whether that be someone in need, someone who I want to just bless, or an organization or a cause that I find worthy, all of the above, I ensure that I'm giving my money to in order so that the supernatural factor can get activated, but also because I genuinely enjoy giving. I think the point of not living paycheck to paycheck should be to put yourself in a position where you can afford to do things like give to other people and to be the lender and not the borrower. The second thing you're going to want to do is make a budget. So I have a video on this. I will link it in the cards as well as the description box below. But if you want the abridged version, we also have a blog post on it, which will also be linked in the description box below. But I teach you in those posts that budgeting really just boils down to minimizing your expenses and maximizing your income. So on a very fundamental level, if you're not making a lot of money, then you want to ensure that your expenses are relatively low so that you can accommodate your living habits. So when you're making a budget, you're going to want to write out all of the income that you have coming in. So whether you have a job, you braid people's hair on the weekends, sneaker flipping, detailing cars, it doesn't matter where your income comes from, you want to add all of it up, even the miscellaneous income that's not enough to be taxed. Then on the right hand side, you're going to want to add up all of your expenses. That's all of your food, your housing expenses, your shopping expenses, anything that you spend money on, you want to put that on the second side. So the next thing you're going to want to do is subtract your income from your expenses. And if it gives you a negative number, then you're at a deficit and there's some things that need to change. If you have money left over, then you also might want to change some things, but we'll get to that in just a second. And if you're breaking even, well, then you really want to make some changes, because if you're breaking even, you're always going to be living paycheck to paycheck. It will be a requirement that you get your next paycheck in order to pay your bills the next month. So before you even start messing with your budget, what you really want to do is try to pull an emergency fund out of your budget. That is a minimum of $1,000 that you have to the side at all times that is never touched in the event that an emergency takes place. This will alleviate the need for creating more debt using credit cards and things of that nature, and this will always keep you in the positive and out of the negative. I specifically have a larger emergency fund, but that's just because I have higher expenses. So if you have something like a house or a car or a medical condition of some sort, you're going to want to ensure that you have an emergency fund that's set to the side that covers the total amount of the deductible for your insurance to kick in. So in the event of a car accident, I have enough money put to the side that will cover my deductible to ensure that my car insurance will take effect. The same with my home, my health, my dental, and everything else in between. So the third thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make the hard calls. So you have to make the hard calls in order to make this negative number positive, this zero number positive, and more specifically, so positive that you can afford to no longer live from paycheck to paycheck. So what I like to do is I add my monthly income up and I divide that by 12 months of the year. Take that remaining value and ensure that I save at a minimum that amount of money every single month. That way, if something is to happen, there's a little bit of a cushion between my expenses and my income. At first, it's going to start off very small, and this is not an aggressive tactic. This is for somebody who's just beginning. So it's going to take you about a year in order to get you in a position where you are no longer living paycheck to paycheck using this method. However, I'm a little bit more aggressive. More specifically, I live off of military benefits, and thus when I'm not in school during the summer months, I don't get paid. So what I do is I take all of my expenses for the summer, I add them together, multiply them by 3 because there's 3 months, and then I divide that by the amount of time that I'm in school per semester. So, for example, if I'm in the spring semester like I'm in now, we're only in school from January to May. I only get paid for about 4 months of that. So what I'll do is I'll take my summer expenses, I'll multiply them by 3, I'll then divide them by 4, and the amount of money that's left over is the minimum amount of savings that I have to have in the bank every single month after I pay my bills in order to live my regular life during the summertime. This tactic works no matter what your budget is or how you make your money. So I understand that there are people who don't make a consistent amount of money on a regular basis. You don't work a 9 to 5 if you're an entrepreneur or something like that. Then the way that you apply this principle is you want to ensure that you do the same thing that I just did, but that minimum amount that you have that you put into the bank every month is the minimum amount that you have to make in profit in order to make ends meet. So you want to always ensure you give yourself an extra buffer. I like to give myself between a $300 and $500 buffer. So after you've put yourself in a position to really make those hard calls and to really adjust the budget, you should now have a general idea of what and how much you need to save. So the next thing you're going to need to do, number 4, is save, and save aggressively. Be very proactive about how you save. Start to really change your life habits in order for you to save more money. I think most people have heard of Dave Ramsey. He talks all the time about not going to Starbucks and making a different choice in your subscriptions and things of that nature, not paying for things that you don't use. All of those things, reducing your shopping, living off the envelope method. You can see a link to all of those different things in the description box, but on a very basic scale, just save money. The only way for you to not live paycheck to paycheck is to ensure that you are saving enough money so that you don't have to depend on your paycheck. So if you get a lump sum of cash, in particular like your tax return, what you're going to want to do is take a portion of that and put that to the side so that it can kickstart your savings goals. This also applies to your stimulus checks and everything else in between. You want to put it towards your savings if you can. Paying off debt, number 1. Number 2, your savings. Any extra money should go towards those 2 things. If you cannot put yourself in a position to do those 2 things, then you're really going to have a hard time not living paycheck to paycheck. So you've got to make the hard calls and really weigh out the options and understand that there's only one way for you to make it there, to save. The last thing you want to do is rinse, repeat, and recycle. And what I mean by this is you want to really get into a groove and understand what is hindering you from month to month to be able to implement these standards. So if your issue is that you go to Target too often, then what you're going to need to do is put some boundaries in place so that you're not spending all your money at Target. How about doing something like the online option? They have the free pickup. You order only what you need so that you don't go inside the store and you're not tempted to purchase things that you don't need. It doesn't matter really what your vice is as long as you're willing to put the boundaries in place to reduce that in order for you to increase your savings. And understand that when you're increasing your savings, you don't want to touch it. The point is not to spend your savings. The point is to have it to the side in the event that you are no longer getting paid. The last thing you're going to want to do is just put systems in place to ensure that you're being efficient. So that's a part of this recycle process. Ensure that you're being efficient with the way that you save. I realized that the envelope method was not for me. So my version of the envelope method is I have different bank accounts for different types of spending. So I have a main bank account where my housing costs, my food costs, and things like that come out. I have another bank account for all of my subscriptions, any outside activities. So I put all of my leisure money in that account. I have another account that's dedicated only to food. I have another account that's dedicated to long-term savings, and then a final account that's dedicated to short-term savings. That long-term savings holds my emergency fund money. The short-term savings holds my paycheck to paycheck buffer money. You have to know what is going to be efficient for you. So if you don't get paid on a regular basis, let's say you get paid weekly, but you have monthly bills, the way for you to ensure that you're being efficient with that, rather than having to put your bills on your credit card until you get paid again, what you should be doing is just save a certain percentage of your money weekly to cover the full monthly cost. This is going to go back to the same principle that we talked about before with how much you need to save, but instead of going from a month-to-month scale, you're talking about a weekly scale. And you're going to want to keep doing this. It doesn't matter if you're debt-free, if you're a millionaire, if you're swallowing up in debt, or you're getting food stamps. It honestly doesn't matter. At the end of the day, nobody should be living paycheck to paycheck. It just boils down to maximizing your income and maximizing the fluidity of your income and minimizing those expenses in order for you to have a nice buffer. So, if you all found this video helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. It definitely helps the algorithm. Also, the blog post associated with this video, as always, is in the description box below. We will be coming with all different types of content for the rest of the month, so please make sure you're notified, follow the blog and all the things, as well as following us on social media. Thank you so much for your time, and until the next video, goodbye.